Here is a convicted trespasser we're about to explain. You see spot shadowed there from the January 6th attack. You can see him pushing forward. This is brazenly passing police lines to break into the Capitol that day. Evidence shows he also gathered apparent weapons by breaking apart metal fencing, hiding it in his pants pocket. And that's something he's actually admitted, speaking of accountability, in his legal case. His name is Charles Hand. He's a 37-year-old January 6th convict from Georgia. He is the kind of person that the Republican Party has claimed for many decades should not even be able to vote. The party at the state level has stripped voting rights from millions and millions of people based on exactly these kind of criminal records. Donald Trump, if you want to go to the current party leader, has claimed he opposes voting rights for felons. But now, as Trump leads his party towards embracing January 6 felons and other criminals, and even those convicted of super serious and grave and rare crimes like sedition that day, Donald Trump's Republican Party not only welcomes January 6 convicts voting, right, which is a total reversal and hypocritical and quite obvious, but also welcomes them as leaders of their movement, able to make policy, to be on ballots, to be in government. Some Republicans are backing these lawbreakers' quest, including the one you see on your screen here, to become lawmakers. To, and I say this quite literally, to re-enter the Capitol they once illegally stormed, to re-enter it as Republican legislators. This is the top story tonight because that convict just made it to the final step of a primary runoff for a U.S. House seat from the state of Georgia. And he'll face off with another candidate next month. This is the kind of political process that other failed democracies have seen. We as a country are no better or worse than what other countries and societies and people go through, but sometimes it does help some people to understand it that way. So we've seen this happen in other places. It does not end well, where the criminals and the autocrats who actually oppose democracy begin infiltrating the government. And sometimes it happens before the entire democracy fails. Here's another January 6th defendant facing allegations of bringing a gun to the insurrection and shooting it. That is no joke. That right there is a crime in the District of Columbia. That person is one of over 1,400 defendants facing charges or trials related to Jan 6. Many of them, though, we should mention, have been convicted. They've reached plea deals. Some have taken responsibility. Many have said in public as part of that process that they were wrong to believe Trump's lies, or they believed it then and they don't believe it anymore. Again, as part of why the picture is complicated tonight, and whether that makes for a better or more exciting story is not supposed to be our concern in journalism. I just want to tell you the nuance. One recently told the court, turns out the election was not stolen. That was an oath keeper facing responsibility and accountability in January 6th sentencing. And I'll tell you, even if you don't believe that person, if you think they only were saying what's true to try to get a lighter sentence, I'll remind you that's part of how the criminal justice system works. We don't bust out lie detectors and do psychological searches on everyone's mind. The system does reward people who say the right thing and the true thing, combined with other efforts to take responsibility, like taking a plea. So that's one reaction. But as the Republican Party rallies to Trump's more brazen embrace of January 6, we're seeing real in-court ramifications going the other way. Take this defendant openly announcing he's above the law because he expects a pardon from Trump in about 6 months. This is real, if you haven't heard about this yet. Quote, Trump's going to be in office in 6 months, so I have nothing to worry about, said by a defendant to a judge during arraignment. That is a truly anti-law and order view, and it is fomented by Trump. The quote says it's directly from Trump, right? And Trump is now running more blatantly against the rule of law than even in his past campaigns. We know that on January 6th, Trump welcomed the crowd. We know he didn't try to stop the violence that day. You remember that. By the end of the day, he was pushed into telling people after they'd ransacked the place and called for assassinations of Pence and Pelosi and done all the other things we remember. He did eventually say, go home. And at that point, after the deed was done, he talked up peace. At the time, that seemed like a low point. But I want to be clear with you. In measurable ways, he has now gone far lower. The nonpartisan Associated Press recently reporting Trump now makes defending the January 6th attack a, quote, cornerstone of his White House bid. And it's closing the circle on his own involvement. Remember, I bet you're old enough to remember when one of the conspiracy theory defenses was it was somebody else. It was Antifa. It was a bad thing, but it was liberals. That was a lie. They gave that up. Now they say not only did they do it and Jan 6 people are okay or they are persecuted, they did it, and now they're trying to sometimes argue it was effectively okay or even a good thing, quote unquote. Trump literally honors these defendants and convicts at his rallies. He falsely refers to them as hostages. That is not what they are. And an announcer sometimes plays their singing rendition of the national anthem.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
That is eerie. That is the disembodied voice of people in prison singing. That's all for the people who stormed the Capitol. This week, the same nonpartisan Associated Press reported election deniers are closer to the GOP mainstream in Congress. I told you about that one candidate. And Americans are learning some of the Supreme Court justices who take an oath to be impartial actually flew a flag cheering on the insurrection in the days after, meaning after they saw the violence. So the conservative right has grown more extreme on this issue than ever. The lies that fed the insurrection are, for example, what Justice Alito was caught appearing to support by flying that upside-down American flag, a symbol of the, quote, Stop the Steal effort. Alito realizes how guilty he looks, so he's not actually defending that, unlike, say, a Republican congressional candidate. He now claims that his wife flew the flag without his involvement or knowledge, but since he lives there, that explanation sounds misleading at best. It raises questions over whether he should recuse from any related cases or be put under oath about his now several scandals, as some call for him to be off the court entirely. Then there's the new speaker who went from warning that Trump was unfit for office to joining the lies about Jan 6. Speaker Johnson claimed that he wanted to help a cover-up to hide the faces of the people who illegally stormed the Capitol. This is a claim he later walked back.
I made a commitment immediately after I got the gavel that we would start releasing that. Originally, we were trying to blur some of the faces to protect the innocent, people who were just there and just happened to be walking through the building.
False. The people arrested were not people who happened to be walking through the building that day, which Johnson knows because he was there and which you can see on your screen. This went on for hours of what you see here. This was actually while the police were still holding some of the line. This other footage is at one of the doorways. This went on for hours. The footage is disturbing. The police were brutally attacked over and over by those Trump fans. These are the people, among others, that Trump is talking about pardoning. And the broader timeline we've shown you before, I want to remind you, the GOP went from what you see back in 21, calling this an un-American insurrection, to later having the RNC claim it was legitimate speech, to then what you see on the right, the new Speaker Johnson going even farther, to the RNC now only wanting to hire election deniers. That's the political lens on the bottom. Above it, you have what I told you is that mixed picture, others convicted, other accountability in the judicial branch. The timeline plots several points. The big takeaway is that the Republican political arm is different from our justice system. They are splitting. But the political arm is on record opposing the rule of law, democracy, and law and order. That's the political problem. As for the other lens I told you about, there is justice accountability, especially in the federal prosecution in courts and some of the state probes that took a little longer to get started. I'm showing you here some of the many Trump aides and lawyers punished, prosecuted, or even now convicted, all for related cases at the state or federal level, either stonewalling or trying to steal the election. Trump White House vet Peter Navarro is in prison right now. Steve Bannon is headed there on similar charges, just affirmed by an appeals court. Arizona prosecutors just held new arraignments for Giuliani and other Trump allies indicted for trying to steal the 2020 race. And that includes Trump attorney Christina Bobb. And she is a defendant who holds an Orwellian spot on the National Republican Party's election integrity team. An embarrassing sign of the kind of hypocritical doublespeak at the party. You have Bob just leaving the courthouse, followed by some reporters. These are big stories, but some of them, of course, overshadowed by even larger stories like Trump's trial. If there wasn't a trial of the former president, this, I can guarantee you with my understanding of the news, would be a multi-day national news story. Here is the mugshot of the person that the RNC still claims should be in charge of redeeming election integrity. She is facing justice and accountability. She doesn't have Trump's ability to use presidential references to so slow things down that the Supreme Court buys you an extra 6 months. And her current legal predicament is a bracing contrast to her past claims.
We need everyone to vote. I certainly hope both sides want election integrity.
Donald Trump won the election this week, and Democrats have made a nasty play to steal the presidency.
If you're concerned about, is our election safe? Get involved.
There's a pivotal election.
Become an election worker, become a poll observer.
That's the contrast. It is a fact that he has, through his lawyering and his privilege and his friends on the Supreme Court, managed to duck the majority of the cases. The trial he currently faces is the only one on deck by the election. And to be clear, it is not the strongest case. I've told you that. And it also pertains to conduct before he ever became president. That's over here. Over here also is a political party, the GOP, that is now openly embracing and doing double down mechanisms to say they're with the Jan 6 defendants and even convicts. But over here is something else that I showed you, which was all the places in this country that nonpartisan prosecutors and the independent justice system and judges are going through the evidence and punishing these people, some of whom say they're sorry and they don't believe the lies anymore, and occasionally some who, as I showed you, say they're waiting on their pardon. It's a mixed picture. It is not the extremes of those who say cynically, we've already lost and nothing works. And it's also not, obviously, hey, look at our perfect legal system and our perfect Supreme Court. Everything's going to be okay. So with that mixed reality in mind, what are citizens going to do as we are in this interregnum before a jury does judge Donald Trump?